So as we're coming off the Halloween week, the Giants and Jets both had flaming bags of shit put on their doorstep, and that was the epic clip from Can't Buy Me Love, where you shit on my house. Come on, Kenneth, I want to make it right, but you shit on my house. That's what happened. That's what happens to New York football teams. We've been shit on, and we're just dealing with a shoe full of shit from putting on a flaming bag.
Flaming bags of shit, and yet, like, I didn't even care to put it out. I just took it in. You know, it had to flame out on itself, by itself, and it's still going.
Yeah, great classic movie. Perfect opening to what was just like exactly flaming bag of shit of 2 games for the weekend. Well done, Scott. Really good job with that.
And Novak pulled out some trivia as we were talking about this. He said Patrick Dempsey was just named sexiest man alive by People.
I don't want to admit that I know that or how I know that, but apparently it was.
Which People?
I don't know.
People magazine.
Oh, the magazine.
Wasn't he McDreamy? He was McDreamy.
He was McDreamy, yeah.
The hell's the show?
Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy.
Boy, you guys are getting ready to turn that man card in right now. Knowing who the sexiest man alive is, calling him McDreamy. Scott immediately with the Grey's Anatomy. I mean,
guys, I'm looking that up because I want to say something is not right about that, but I caught it on like Facebook or something. Yes, it was Patrick Dempsey. Yes, Vanity Fair. Yep. So I was right about that. I caught it out of the corner of my eye. I was not searching out who was the sexiest man alive because clearly it would have been one of the 4 of us, but we weren't.
Novak's been Googling every day for the past month. Did they name him yet?
I couldn't wait.
Did they name it?
I mean, other than the crappy Jets, I got nothing else to look forward to. Might as well look into that, right?
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
No, of course not.
We are the 3 angry Giant fans and a Jet fan. This is your host, Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Jets fan Novak. And boys, we just witnessed our teams both score 6 points, both get drubbed mightily. Giants had some mitigating issues with Daniel Jones, which we'll talk about in a minute. The Jets might be looking for quarterback help as well. I think Salah's pleading the fifth on that, but we'll get into it. But before we do break anything down, let's give a shout out. And I think Peyton Manning might like this, or any of the Mannings might like this. So, hello, Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha.
So it's one of the most populous cities we've called out. They have 486,000 people. It's named after the actual Indian tribe that settled there, the Omaha Indians. And it was a hotbed of gambling, drinking, and prostitution and crime in the late 1800s. And it actually led the nation several times in the murder rate. So It is the home of the College World Series now. And ironically enough, it's the home of Wade Boggs and a Jet, Reese Hall.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
I've actually been there to downtown Omaha. It's a pretty cool city.
It actually is a cool city. I've been there too. It's nice.
I was there many, many years ago for some shitty company I was working for at the time. And I had to go there to visit for some reason. And but it was actually pretty cool, that little downtown. Now, I was there in January, so it was like a frozen tundra, which is just god awful in the middle of the country. But anyway, Omaha is a pretty cool city.
Great.
Now, but the closest I've come to Omaha must be watching Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom on Sunday nights when I was growing up with Merlin Olsen. Am I correct in that? Was that a reference?
I don't think it was Merlin Olsen.
Merlin Olsen.
I think it was.
Was it old? Was that some old man like Marlon Anderson or something like that?
Jacques Cousteau, was he?
Well, Merlin Olsen, I only know him as Jonathan Garvey on Little House on the Prairie, living in Walnut Grove, Minnesota.
All right, I'll table that one. I'm going to put.
It was Marlon Perkins.
Marlon Perkins.
That's right. Who did I say?
Merlin Olsen.
Man, that is close.
Sounded just like it. I mean, it's close, Scott.
That is close. Thank you for calling me out, though. I wouldn't want that one out there floating around. People thinking the 4 of us didn't know.
But by the way, you can tell it's week 9 and both of our teams are basically out of it. We have football talk that is non-existent. We're talking about Mutual of Omaha. We might as well just talk about lions devouring little baby wildebeests and stuff.
Yeah, still, I mean, we haven't had a shout out name yet that I liked any more than Antelopeville. So
Yeah.
That was the greatest of
Yeah.
all time.
So every time we hear one of these cities called out, I compare it to Antelopeville, which they had changed their name, right? It
Yeah.
was a city that used to be called Antelopeville.
hmm
Man, when I found my city after the apocalypse, it's Antelopeville. So that's what, no question.
So before we get into this, we want to share a little bit of sad news. So we had two listeners lose their mothers over the weekend. So Jets fan Ogre and our friend Jack and Raleigh both had mothers pass this week. So you know, our condolences go
Our
out
condolences.
to them.
Yeah, prayers,
Yeah.
prayers up big time, guys.
Absolutely.
That's that sucks.
And we're all wearing black except for Mike for the death knell of the seasons of the Giants and the Jets. It seems like.
I clearly was not given the memo on that this is going to be a morgue.
Mike evidently still thinks the season's alive. I guess I don't know how, but
Now I just pulled some stuff out of the back of the corner of the closet that I didn't have a chance to wear yet this year because the season didn't even get rolling. Figured I might as well go through it all.
By the way, the Jets are still in the hunt, Novak.
Oh, please. That bag of shit organization doesn't deserve me wearing green. Sorry. I we'll get into it later, but I am so angry right now. But I want you guys to the Giants. This is the Giants podcast first and foremost. Get after it.
Well, we'll talk about the debacle in Las Vegas. So you know, our friend John, who's down in Atlanta, he went to the game, and luckily he at least got to see you two in the Sphere. And he went to see Shin Lim do magic before the game, because once the game started, I mean, one has to reevaluate their life choices when they've gone to Vegas to watch the Giants play the Raiders.
I was pretty damn close to going. That game really stuck out to me on the schedule. I really wanted to go. Other life events got in the way, but thank goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I think in years past, you know, we've documented that our seasons have been over by Halloween. So when the season starts, you better go in September somewhere. Otherwise, these games aren't going to mean anything. So when looking at when the schedule came out, I had plans to maybe go to Miami, and that was only week 5. So you figured you're still safe there. The Raider game, right? This is now what, week 9? They're a little bit in the back of your mind, like, wow, will that game still mean something? You're not sure. I don't know if I want to take a chance, you know, booking that stuff in, you know, over the summer. And here we go. Didn't mean anything.
Close. Not even close.
So Daniel Jones comes back from his neck injury, and he promptly tears his ACL. He's done for the year. Guys, I mean, we may have seen Daniel Jones throw his last pass as a starter for the New York Giants. I don't know if we have or not. And what makes me really upset as a Giant fan is to watch other Giant fans really take glee in this happening. I mean, it's never, like we've said this in pods past. It's never good for your team when your starting quarterback goes down, nor is it good for the franchise. So we're in a position now where we may have to go out and get a quarterback in the draft next year, which wastes the draft pick, as well as the fact that you still have to have that draft pick pan out. And I know everyone is high on the draft picks that are out there. I watched Caleb Williams play. He makes some amazing throws. He also has 30 fumbles this year. 30 fumbles. Well, I shouldn't say this year. 30 fumbles in his career, which is the most for a Division I quarterback. So when you look at Daniel Jones having issues with ball security when he came into the league and all the questions around that, a lot of Giants fans are putting their eggs in the basket with a guy who has a lot of fumbles. And we have seen in the last 5 years, as we talked about in the last pod, there are no sure bets when it comes to quarterbacks in the early parts of the first round.
No, there's not, Scott. I think Jones this is unbelievable, because I know we have hyped up Daniel Jones just from, you know, as a talent, and a couple things. He's been ruined by this Giant offense, by the play calling, by this offensive line that he's played behind. Daniel Jones has been ruined. We said many times, right? This is what, his 5th year now? We don't know if this guy's any good. We don't know. And we're not going to find out in a Giant uniform. And now that we were worried about the neck injury, how severe that was. Now that he tore his ACL. So between those 2 injuries, guys, here it is, November 8th. He wouldn't be able to even come back next year. Let's say it's just a full year. Now you're talking about half the season of 2024, and the Giants will be sitting again at fucking 2-7 or whatever we are now. He's not going to come back. Guys, I think he's played his last, just like that. It feels like it's an unreal turn of events, guys, where I think he's played his last game in a Giant uniform.
Yeah. So the rest of the year, the Giants will go with Tommy DeVito as the starter and Matt Barkley as the backup as of right now. But even looking at those two as an audition, I mean, you know what you have with Matt Barkley. He's a middling backup quarterback, and Tommy DeVito is an undrafted free agent starting. I looked around the league this week, guys. The quarterbacks that were playing in some of those games, especially at the 1:00 games, which, by the way, were some of the worst matchups possible. Now, some of the games turned out to be good. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the quarterbacks, there were like 6 guys I had no clue who they were, or they were not heralded quarterbacks.
Yeah, the state of quarterbacks in this league, and due to the injuries mostly, I guess, was what's going on, is almost as bad as the state of the offensive lines. I guess I agree with everything you guys just said. I think Cardone just really teed it up. He's probably played his last game in the Giants uniform, and we don't know if we lost something. We have no idea what's going on. My gut tells me if the San Francisco 49ers had drafted that cat, he might be a Super Bowl champion already. He can just play. He can play. He throws a nice ball all over the field. When he's protected, he has outs when he's not. He can run. I think that he was ruined by, unfortunately, the Giants, who obviously traded up for him, were very high on him, picked him ahead of some other prospects out there that weren't as that other teams had ahead of him. I think they did the right thing. We will never know.
Yeah.
We will never know.
I think that's the big debate, Mike, too, is that because we will never know, you're going to have this dichotomy of Giant fans, half of which think the guy was absolute dog shit, a clone of Dave Brown, and then guys like ourselves who are like, there's untapped potential there that we'll never get to understand, what happened. And what we can hope for as fans is that the next guy that comes in gets put into a better situation. Now, we still have offensive line woes. It was good to see Andrew Thomas back. Andrew Thomas was road grading people in that game against the Raiders. But then you look at the receiver situation. Look at a guy like Isaiah Hodgins. Last year, the guy was our number one receiver. This year, he's hardly anywhere to be found. Darren Waller gets signed. Darren Waller can't seem to recapture the magic he had in Vegas and in Oakland. It just seems like, I don't want to say we're snake bit as an organization, but it just seems like whether it's the system, whether it's coaches, whether it's the players, just guys come here and they don't perform like they had, and we don't really have an explanation for why that is.
Can I give you? I'm glad you brought up the receiving core here a little bit. You only named a couple guys, but I just looked at a couple stats, and we know how ridiculously bad the passing numbers are, and the total offense is for the New York Giants so far this year. But through 9 games, let me just give you a couple stats. Taking out Darren Waller because he's a tight end, I didn't factor in Waller, and his numbers aren't exactly off the chart. Our leading wide receivers in terms of receptions is Wan'Dale Robinson with 27. That's good for 78th in the league. 78th. There's 32 teams, guys. That means that every team has at least like 2.5 receivers better than our top wide receiver. Well, that factors in. Now let me back up, because 78th is including tight ends. And that's the whole league.
Running
so
backs,
not just that position, but nonetheless. And then in going by yards, Darius Slayton, 316 yards, leads our receivers in yardage. That's good for 69th in the league. We did this last year with this receiving core, where Hodgins, came out of nowhere, right? We got him from the Bills or whatever, just a throwaway there, and played well at the end of the year. But look at these statistical numbers. Everyone, Jones. It's all we look. Look at the fucking guys he's passing to. But when you consider the offensive line, the play calling from Mike Kafka, the whole system, and then you throw in this bullshit collection of wide receivers, these guys, Darius Slayton wouldn't be on a roster on about 15 other teams, and he's our number one. It's ridiculous, guys. That's who we have running around every week trying to get open. Now, and even Waller is 52nd in the league with 384 yards. He's our top receiver. 52nd. There's 32 teams. We don't have one guy in the top 50. What else is there to say?
I'd like to make some witty quirk about that, but I'm really just defeated.
I mean,
I don't know.
There's guys running around right now, and I know, these are the top performers, the Tyreek Hills and these other guys that they already have over 1,000 yards. We haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since 2009, since Odell Beckham.
Yeah, since Beckham.
1,000-yard receivers in this day and age with the way the quarterbacks throw, they throw the ball 40 times a game. We're not in the league in terms of a wide receiver. We don't have an NFL wide receiver. Slayton or Darius Waller, listen to me. Darius Slayton, 316 yards. So that means our top wide receiver is on pace for what? 600 yards of receiving in 17 games? It's a joke, guys. It's a joke.
Yeah. And he won't get there because most of his yards came from Jones. So he's had his high point.
Yeah.
And guys, we should loop in Novak here too, because both of our squads scored 6 points. The Giants got a touchdown and then went for 2 and failed. The Jets got 2 field goals, but it's still 6 points from these two franchises a day apart in the NFL. This is offensive ineptitude.
I told you that I texted you guys the stat. Russell Wilson has 16 touchdowns, and we would all agree that Russell Wilson isn't even in the top half of quarterbacks in the league, right? The Jets and the Giants combined have 17. Two teams, 17 touchdowns over the course of 9 games. And the Jets have the 8 and you have the 9. We were given a touchdown by the Eagles. So really, we have 16 because the Eagles let us score.
But we haven't had a bye. So we still have to take a week off.
Yeah. So that you're that much better.
We suck more than you, Novak. Don't even try this.
Oh, that's true. I guess.
Yeah. The trash talking of suck.
You know what? You're hoping for a mid-season bye to get players rested up and healthy. What is the Giants' goal during a bye this year?
If there a way we could pass on the bye and just say, no, look, can we move a game in? We'll
just get it over with faster.
We'll please.
We'll go to London. Can we go to London?
Don't make our fans watch this on January 7th. Just stop it. Stop.
Can you do like Little League and just forfeit? Is it possible to just forfeit a game in the NFL? Can you do that?
Well, if you do, I think the score is like 6-0, which actually is a typical score for the Giants and Jets.
That would improve a lot of our statistics if we could do that.
I mean, if you're going to forfeit, you guys should be forfeiting this weekend. Let's be honest, because you got your rivals who you do not want to play right now with Danny DeVito, lining up under center, and you got the Cowboys. I
think our Cowboy fan listeners are going to be probably a little happy with me because I take a little bit of umbrage with the way that they were treated against the Eagles, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. Yeah. But again, the Eagles are just the media darlings for some reason. So Novak, you guys got run out of town by San Diego and Justin Herbert, who threw for like 160 yards. And I saw a stat where I think the Chargers were the first team since like 2000 to have under 200 yards of offense and win a game by more than
3 scores.
Yes. 3 scores.
We lost 27-6 and we let up 191 yards of offense. How does that even happen? I mean, that is the most pathetic. I can't even break down this game because I'm so annoyed by this organization. I have had enough of the Zach Wilson experiment, and I hate to, like I've said many times, I hate being the armchair quarterback that is just the only thing I can talk about is the quarterback. But the reality is, and I'm not saying this to boast, there's a generationally good defense that they have, and they've proven it week after week after week, and yet we have to put this boy band idiot out there on the field every single week, and for whatever reason we can't take him off. And you know what the funny thing is? I blame one person for this. And who do you think I'm going to say? Who do I blame for the fact where the Jets are in this situation right now at 4-4 with a generationally good offense and this shithole of an offense or defense, generationally good defense? You know who I
Salah.
blame?
Joe Namath. Is this a Joe Namath rant again?
No, it's not.
Oh.
I blame the dick. It is
Yes.
all the dick's fault. And you know why? Listen to how all these things work out. So the dick said, I'm going to go play for the Jets, but I want Nathaniel Hackett as our offensive coordinator. That turd, Nathaniel Hackett, that couldn't call a game for high school. Then he said, why don't you go pay wide receiver $2 to that stiff Alan Lazard and then bring in that old fossil and Randall Cobb. So those are our 2 and number 3 receivers. They both suck. Alan Lazard drops every single ball, and on top of the fact, he can't even line up on the line of scrimmage as he had 2 penalties on him for not lining up correctly. Then Rodgers wanted the backup quarterback. Oh, let's bring in Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle? Now he's our backup? And our backup offensive tackle is going to be Billy Turnstile or Billy Turner, whatever his name is, who was letting up everyone in the backfield from that fucking guy on every single play. And you know exactly what happened when the Jets wanted to trade for like Kirk Cousins or Dobbs or anyone. They can't. This organization can't fart without Rodgers approving it. It is ridiculous. This is the reason that we suck. And Rodgers, and the worst part about Rodgers, and I'm going to have a Seinfeld reference, Cardone, sorry.
Love it.
But do you remember when George had the man crush on Tony?
Yeah,
Like tuna sandwiches.
Yeah, of course.
Tuna
Dan Cortez.
sandwiches, right? Yeah, Dan
Yeah.
Cortez for our mountain climbing thing. That's
Yeah.
Zach Wilson. He has a man crush on Aaron Rodgers. He tries to play like Aaron Rodgers. Dude, you're not Aaron Rodgers. You suck. Make the simple throw. You cannot be one of the great quarterbacks of all time. And if you watch how he plays, he does those sidearm throws and trying to off-script plays. He sucks. Get him out of there. I'm so over Zach Wilson. And I told you guys, and I think I mean it, I'm not watching this team if he's under center. I refuse. I cannot watch this team with this boy band loser under center every single week. I'm done.
I never noticed Novak. You made the mention about him running backwards, which I guess I didn't notice, and then I texted. I was pretty numb on Sunday, so I didn't I wasn't very active on the text thread. But at one point I see Zach Wilson running backwards and he gets sacked, whatever. I'm like, there it is. I go, Zach Wilson running backwards. I forget what you even said, Novak. You just barked back like through the.
He does it every time. He gets any kind of pressure and he backpedals. Not he doesn't turn and run. He backpedals as if that's going to do anything. And you know what I knew when this game was done? Play 1 from scrimmage. He overthrew Uzama on an out route by 10 yards over his head. And I was like, we're going to lose. This game's fucking over. And I was right. And they blew him out. So
I think Rodgers needs to tell Zach Wilson to step off. Right, when the sign, George, step off, dude.
Me?
No,
step off?
No, Tony.
Oh,
no.
Tony, don't. Step off, George.
What I like about Rodgers is that in a typical recovery from an Achilles injury, you're out of your boot by now. You're walking. You're just not doing a lot of physical activity. Well, the guy is seen in pregame throwing the ball, and there's speculation now he might come back any week. Just because he doesn't have a boot on and he's throwing a ball in pregame. What kind of flexure does it need from your foot to throw a ball?
If he doesn't come back this year, he is a gigantic dick because he's making everyone think he's coming back.
Guys, we know he is. Come on.
I'm coming back in a few score weeks or a few score. What a douchebag. This guy is unbelievable. That has him coming back week 16. Why would he do that?
He's not going to. He's not, because he's going to say the team's out of it. Why am I going to bother?
Yeah, I could play if I wanted.
I could play if I wanted, but I mean, just
meanwhile,
you have narcissistic idiot.
You have the Arizona Cardinals who traded away their starting quarterback to the Vikings and then decided to play some guy no one's ever heard of instead of activate Kyler Murray, who is perfectly healthy, by the way. So he is going to start this week, but
something stinks in there.
The way people treat some of these quarterbacks, it's outrageous.
By the way, speaking of the Cardinals, that second half stupid win now that we had in week 2, that's going to prevent us from getting the number 1 pick next year. I started thinking about this, and I can't stand thinking about draft picks after fucking 9 weeks of a current season. But face it, we have nothing else. I just hate doing the whole, well, we'll get draft picks, because guess what? Our draft picks haven't done dick. Because you know why? Because since the start of 2017, I have it written right here. We mentioned this last week. The New York Football Giants, 33-73-1. They have the one tie for a 313 winning percentage, the worst record in the National Football League. And here we are again. And we don't need the 4th, 5th, or 6th pick. No. We need the number 1 pick. I don't care what they're thinking about right now. We need number 1, guys. No longer like 5th isn't good enough. 4th, fucking number. We need number 1. That's
Actually, I vehemently disagree with that, because when you're the number 1 pick, you are locked into a player. And put aside, look at the Panthers last year. The Panthers, and I've heard from numerous sources, people inside the building want CJ Stroud, and they were overruled by David Tepper, who, by the way, just fired the MLS coach who made the playoffs inexplicably this year. Have no reason why you would cut ties with a guy who actually made the playoffs with a team that looked like they were going nowhere. But put that aside, David Tepper forced them to pick Bryce Young. And we just watched an epic game by CJ Stroud against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, does that mean CJ Stroud is going to be great going forward? No. Does it mean Bryce Young's terrible going forward? Probably not. But here's the thing. The football people told him, pick CJ Stroud. And he said, no, we're going to pick Bryce Young. That's what we need to do. And that's what happens when you have the number 1 pick. You get forced into taking a pick. Say the Giants get forced into taking Caleb Williams, and the guy fumbles like a machine. Then all of a sudden you're wondering, what the hell do we do? I would almost rather have that 3rd, 4th pick. Let people in front of you take the people that they need to, and you have your choice. We can get Marvin Harrison Jr. We can get a lineman. We can get a lot of different options. I don't know.
Well,
I don't want to be forced into taking a quarterback that everyone says needs to be taken. And then when you either take him and he doesn't work out, or you pass on him and he works out for another team, you're screwed.
Can I give you the opposite of that debate right there? So
Sure.
The Jets in 2020 won a meaningless game against the Rams, which I'm rue the day that we won this game, which gave the Jacksonville Jaguars the number 1 pick. And they got Trevor Lawrence, who they were forced into taking. And who do we get? Zach Wilson. So trust me when I tell you, that's not the worst thing in the world to be the number 1 pick and having to take the generational quarterback, which is what Trevor Lawrence was. And now we're stuck with Zach Wilson.
But we have the Giants version of that too, where all sorts of Giant fans were complaining because we beat the Redskins in a game late in the season a few years ago. And we lost the Chase Young sweepstakes. You know what we got out of that? We got Andrew Thomas. So the Redskins got Chase Young. We got Andrew Thomas. Chase Young is no longer a Redskin.
Yeah, that's the uncertainty of the draft. But I agree with Cardone, but not for a player. I want the number 1 draft pick for the capital we can get from it.
Yes.
I don't want to take Caleb Williams. I don't want to. And I don't think the Giants want to either. There's a couple other quarterbacks in this league that feel more Giant-like to me, who I think maybe they would feel safe trading that back a few picks and snap it up. I think it's unfortunate. We have to talk about taking a quarterback here, and I don't think we do. I think the temptation in this draft is that it's generally considered to be a pretty deep quarterback draft. So you feel like if you pass on it here and rebuild elsewhere, thinking you get your quarterback later, you might not fall back into this situation. So I wouldn't hate either of those scenarios. I wouldn't hate picking 3rd and waiting to see what happens in front of us. I love that first draft pick, but only if their plan is to trade it, or if the consensus number 1 becomes somebody other than Caleb Williams.
I just like the additional options it gives you. We've been sort of in that middle of the top 10 picks, and Scott, I don't disagree either. It's like, I don't know that we just proved that I don't think either position is guaranteed, right? Success. So there's 2 sides, they're both sides of the coin there. But I think just for once, fuck it, man. I don't care. Guys, we've said this many times, and again, I'll never root for the Giants to lose. But honestly, I don't give a shit what happens, win or like the rest of the year. I mean, I'll say it right now. I don't think I told you this, guys, on Sunday, dude. I didn't watch the Raider game. I was watching it on my. I was getting play-by-play on my phone. I was watching the Eagle Cowboy game, and I know that's devastating to hear. I couldn't believe I actually did that, but I couldn't bear. I just had to watch a real NFL game. I had to watch a real NFL game between two actual good teams. I couldn't bear to watch the Giant Raider game. I was sitting there with my phone, like watching, getting the plays while I was watching the Eagle Cowboy game. That's how pathetic. That's where I was on Sunday, and I'm certainly not going to sit down and watch that Cowboy game next week and get just I can't do it, guys. I can't do it. I mean, it's just I can't do it anymore. I really can't sit there and watch this. 2-7 right now. We got. What do we got? We got 8 more games. How are they going to beat anybody? Lose out, go 2-15. Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. I am just a broken man. I'm a broken Giant fan, guys. We talked about it last week, but after, this past week again, what's left in the tank? What's left to just as a fan? What's left for the rest of this year with 8 games left to go? How do you watch this stuff? Think about it. How?
And I was a glutton for punishment because I watched that Giants game, and then I rue that Cardone told me about the fact that Robert Salah is on the screen every other play because I watched the Jet game after that. And that fucking mug was on the screen every other play. Now, you would think a guy like Brandon Staley, who just screws up royally, who takes chances unnecessarily, and you would think this guy would be in the spotlight. He's on the hot seat. He's in the crosshairs. I bet you Salah was on the screen 4 times the amount that Staley was.
I don't know how this happened. Someone decided at the beginning of this year that Robert Salah is a new face of the NFL for some reason in-game viewing. I don't. It doesn't make sense. We've talked about it the last couple weeks. It doesn't make sense, guys.
And then the crazy thing.
Go ahead, Novak.
Go ahead. I was about to say, and the crazy thing is they show him on every play and he does nothing. And the more they show him, the angrier I get, because I want to say, how about you take Zach Wilson's head and shove it in the ground and say, that's where the first down marker is. Do something, anything, show some anger, show some interest in the game. He just sitting there with his arms crossed like this. And coincidentally, I'm wearing a black hoodie like he does. And he's just standing there like this, doing nothing. Catatonic, like weird science, like you said, Cardone.
Yeah.
Well, he did do, between the Giants game last week and then this game, he did do one thing super impressive, is he grew that beard. Yeah. He did not have. I mean, I feel like the camera was on him long enough for the past 2 weeks that we could actually go like slow-mo and watch the beard grow. That's how much the camera was on him. But
if you guys, I'm going really old school here. That was like a Cliff Clavin. Remember the Cheers episode where they had a beard growing contest, and it was like, and all of a sudden, and everyone else, all the guys were involved in it, and then they were doing like little tests. I think Carla was throwing like little Velcro balls at their beard and it had to stick to the beard. And Clavin had this straggly looking thing. Then all of a sudden, like the last day of the contest, he walks in with this Grizzly Adams kind of beard. Like, where the fuck did this come from? Clavin ended up winning he passed all the tests. So that's what Salah did this week. He pulled a Cliff Clavin beard out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was amazing. I like you to think back and go look at clips from last week. Did he have a beard 6 days ago? I don't think he did.
He was a bet. He said, "I'm going to grow the beard until the Jets score a touchdown." So he's like ZZ Top by the end of the year.
Do you guys think like cameramen have instructions?
They have to.
Oh, they definitely do.
Yeah,
there's definitely a technical director that says, just like, again, there's one guy, like when they have their little round table meeting, all these pregame meetings and stuff, whatever, like someone like, Cost, you got, you're on solid camera, you're camera 11, take 11, go take 11. And it's just, so you're the schmuck that's just following Salah everywhere he goes, which he barely moves. It does anything. So you're just sitting there, like with the camera, not having to do anything. Zoom, pan, it's just locked in on the guy.
See, this is why I wish this show had more resources. I would like to get an NFL cameraman on here and say, can you tell us the deal with Salah?
Yeah.
Please, we've uncovered this thing. And I just love to hear, well, I'm on Salah duty, for these games. And because there's a camera on him 24/7 because they flip over to it so often. It's not like they could be going away and coming back to him. There's got to be someone on Salah cam. And like Cardone said, the technical director, he's just in love with Salah. He's like, let's see 11 again. Show me 11. Bring up 11. I want to see 11.
Do we get this phenomenon in other sports though? Do you ever see this kind of thing?
There were some back in the when I was more of a basketball fan back in the 80s and 90s. I did feel like who's the triangle guy for the Bulls?
Pat Riley?
No, Pat Riley.
No, Phil Jackson.
Pat Riley.
Phil Jackson.
Pat Riley and Phil Jackson, like when the Knicks and the Bulls played, it's like, it's a game on. Can I see something other than Riley or Jackson?
Well, yeah, it's those, or like when Coach K was coaching Duke, like the shots of Coach K on the bench there, you got about 50 of those in any Duke game. That was nauseating enough.
And Tarkanian sucking on his towel. Remember that?
Yeah.
Disgusting display.
Yeah.
How gross is that? The guy wipes his head and sucks on the towel, and they would show that all the time. Who does that?
Oh, laugh about it. God. That makes my teeth hurt, by the way. I'm thinking about sucking on a towel. I don't like that sensation.
So Cardone brought it up that he's not looking forward to this Cowboys game. Cowboys preview. We got DeVito playing. We got an angry Cowboy team coming off that loss to the Eagles. And I will tell you this. There were a couple of times in that Eagle game that I felt the Cowboys got screwed. There was a pass interference called on a play where the ref threw the flag, and it didn't look like the defender was doing anything other than just running side by side with A.J. Brown. And then I will say this. If you guys know that play at the end where they ruled that the tight end's knee was down before he got to the goal line on a play that actually was called a touchdown at the time, I want to know what the rule is, because the person that caught a ball landed in the end zone with the ball. Are they trying to say that you could be touched down in the field of play if the ball hasn't crossed the goal line yet and it's short, but yet you have to survive the ground when you hit the ground for it to be a touchdown? So if you have to survive the ground, why wouldn't they call it a touchdown and say you've crossed the goal line, you've survived the ground? How do they call that short? And there's another aspect of this. Why was he short of the goal line? Because he was tackled by an Eagle before he caught the ball.
Well, it's the right. And that only exists. He's only short because it's the goal line, Scott. And we've talked about that, where everywhere else on the field, it's just the evolution of the play. It's the evolution and the continuation of the play. When it's just a random spot, let's say it's 1st and 10 and a guy runs for what is like 7 or 7.5 yards and they spot that ball. We're not examining and reviewing those plays. Of course we're not. But so when if you did frame by frame on every single play in an NFL game, guarantee every time the ball would be at least the length of the football behind where the guy actually landed, because a lot of times his knee is probably hitting the ground as he's falling, but they just spotted where the ball landed when it's the 37.5 yard line. But when it's the fucking goal line and it's the fourth quarter and the game is on the line, well, that's when they look at it frame by frame and then say, oh, his knee is down, so the ball hasn't broken the plane yet. That's why we see those calls.
But if you actually haven't landed yet and you cross the goal line after you land, can they really call you down before you land?
Well, that's what I mean. When that happens, which it does in at all parts of the field, no, we're not. You're not calling them down. You're placing the ball when you are actually hitting the ground, not like that fraction where your knee is hitting the ground.
I know Bry Peacock has to be beside himself. And we also have another Cowboy fan, Chris Coons. He's got to be beside himself too. And I will say this. There was another play. The Cowboys took the lead on a touchdown run, and they called illegal formation on the Cowboys. And the Cowboy player clearly announces to the referee that he's eligible. So they've called an illegal formation on a player who goes up to the referee before the play and says, "Hey, I'm going to be a lineman here, or I'm going to be eligible receiver," whatever it is. And they punch that ball in, and they still throw the flag and still call the penalty, and the Cowboy bench is going ballistic. Guys, I don't know what it is about this NFL, but the Eagles are getting away with murder every game that they play.
How many times have you watched a Cowboy game and come away saying, "I feel like the Cowboys got jobbed"?
Exactly.
I mean, that's
Never.
That's pretty rare.
Mhm.
And I agree with everything Scott said. I mean, that's the Eagles got the benefit of the doubt that game. I don't know what else to say without crossing over into Crazy Town, but
The
something odd
Cowboys
is going
scored
on.
2 touchdowns that didn't count because of officiating judgment calls.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're saying it, because you said Bry Peacock's probably pretty pissed off about that. If any Dallas fan ever has the nerve to complain about refs, I will punch him in the face. This game included. That's crazy. That's crazy.
But you know what I go back to, guys? So, I went to the Clemson Notre Dame game, by the way, big win for Clemson. But I watched a lot of college football in the last few weeks. And the one thing that stands out to me about college football, other than the whole review system, which I think is eons better than the NFL, but what you don't see in the college game is you don't see calls made for these like infractions that really aren't apparent. Like, you don't see like a guy running up to a defensive back and there's some like just incidental contact and a flag comes out. If a college referee throws a flag, it seems like there's a reason he threw that flag. Now, maybe he was fooled by what his eyes saw because it looks bad, but you never see a play where a flag is thrown and there's absolutely nothing that causes that flag to be thrown. I think Mike had linked something from the Bengals-Bills game where they threw a illegal motion on a field goal try on a Bengal player that literally didn't move.
No, and the refs seemed to indicate before the ball snapped that he was about to call it. You know, I don't
That's
know.
What I couldn't believe on that clip.
I don't know how you see that and don't think that something is up. There's no other reason, no other signal, no other reason for an NFL official to do the hands twirling thing than false start. That is what, and for some reason, before that ball was snapped, the official almost to himself went like this. And then as soon as they snapped it, through the flag, like almost telegraphing, I'm going to find a false start here. Like, you can't false start before the ball snap. Well, you can, but it has to be right before the ball snap. But yeah.
Well, I think we've talked in the pod before about how we've said that the college review system's better, but just refereeing as a whole. I mean, if you call pass interference in college, it seems to me it's usually clear pass interference. There are some calls
Definitely
they miss in college, but what I don't see in college is I don't see calls made where you're like, well, wait a minute, what did the ref see there that he called that? Like, a lot of times if a holding penalty is called, it's holding, or it looks like holding, at least to my eye.
Yeah.
In the NFL, you see flags that are thrown and they'll say illegal contact, and you watch the defender, and the defender like might have touched him on the shoulder pad as he runs by at the 10-yard mark, and you're like, well, what did he see there to throw that flag?
Yeah. I saw something else in college football this weekend that I do not recall in all of my years watching pro football that I've ever seen. I don't know what game it was, but the quarterback threw a pass that was incomplete and got smashed on the play. And so they threw, roughing the passer. And then after the play on the sidelines, like when the guy was catching the ball, the defender kind of shoved the receiver like back onto the field to play. The official throws another flag on that. And then they get together, they talk, they come out and they go, during the play, roughing the passer, number whatever, 15 yards. After the play, unnecessary roughness, number 15 yards from the spot after the foul. So they gave him 30 yards in penalties on that play. I can't see that happening in the NFL. I can't see that. They would call the old continuing action crap, Scott, right?
Mhm.
And then you have to decline one, or by rule one is declined, or maybe that is the pro rule. But I saw that, I was like, you don't see that they make special care to make sure that there's not 30 yards of penalties in that play. But you got to call them as you see them. That was absolutely the right call. That was actually what happened. So
two different penalties should be each given their same weight.
Yeah.
The other quick thing I would say about college that I love that the NFL does not do, and they need to do it, and you guys would appreciate this more because of what happened with the Jets and Giants 2 weeks ago. On a first down, at the end of the game, the clock stops for 5 seconds, I think it is. How much more exciting would the game be at the end of the game if the clock stopped for even 5 seconds, so that, because apparently in college the chain people need more time than NFL because they're so much more advanced. But whatever the reason was, doesn't matter. But I love that rule because it makes the end of the game so much more exciting. And college is more exciting than the NFL. And I'm dancing on my pet peeve, but anyway.
Well, I will say this too, Novak, and we've talked about this before we even came on this pod, and that's the NFL. I hated when they went to the rule that sped up everything. If you went out of bounds in the first quarter in 1976, the clock stopped, and it didn't start again until you put the ball into play. And at some point, people said, well, wait a minute. Well, these games are too long. We have to run the clock even if you go out of bounds in the first quarter. College has actually done that now, too. So it used to be every first down, the clock would stop until the chains got into position. Now it's only the last 2 minutes of each half, which again, why are we blowing through these games? Are there football fans sitting at home going, hey, God, come on, we gotta move these games along? No, you actually sit at home knowing when that's happened,
which never happened. No, Novak, I never considered that, and it's just brilliant. If the NFL wants to give the offense more chances at the end of a game to tie games up, do it that way. Don't cheapen the game and use your officials to do it.
No,
no one would complain about that rule. Nobody would. That's a perfectly fine way to give the offense a little extra advantage on the defense without weaponizing your officials to do that.
Yeah, because if the Jets on that Giant game at the end there, if they had called game over, I would have been screaming, we got to wait for this fat ass to get over here to set the ball. How is that fair to us?
Yeah. I always wondered why it was a different rule in college and the NFL. Because you look at the guys who do it at college, they're just like, well, they're just students. This isn't their full-time job. I'm like, the chain gang in the NFL game is that's their job?
They're so much better. They can do it in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they were almost saying like, well, the college chain gang guys, they're compared to like just some guys who could change your tires. In the NFL, this is a pit crew. Like, get this done,
70-year-old pit crew members.
Yeah. There's no difference in who's controlling the chains in a college and NFL game.
So, guys, Cowboy predictions. I'll start with Cardone.
It's going to be just as gross as it gets. It's this season is well off the rails. This game will not be remotely competitive. The Giants will be dominated in every statistical category. Either from you name it, it's going to be a lopsided game on the stat sheet, on the field, on paper, however you want to calculate this game. If you want to score, I tell you, it's going to be. I don't know. I'll go 41-6 Dallas.
I almost went with the 6 because I think that's appropriate. We signed Randy Bullock last week because Gano was put on injured reserve with his hurt knee. And we never trotted him out. We tried a 2-pointer, and I think we're going to see Dallas win this game 42-10. So Bullock's actually going to get a field goal for us.
There you go. You know what's interesting? I actually looked at the spread, which has moved slightly. Let me get your thoughts on this and just do some math. The Cowboys are giving 16 points, which I don't think is enough in this game. That line should move. I was thinking should be closer to 18 or 19. They're currently giving 16. At least this is what ESPN is showing here. But you know what's great? The over/under is 38.5. So think about that. You have a 16-point spread, and the entire game is only supposed to go to 39.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that in the NFL?
Yeah.
So that means that Vegas is for this game to go over, it's got to be like 41 to Dick. You know what I mean? Like that's Cowboys cover. Oh, and the game just barely went over.
So here's my pick: 31 to Dick.
31 to Dick. That's awesome. Predicting a shutout.
Well, I am because
No, that's awesome.
Everything that happens to the Giants is epic, right? Has a team ever been shut out twice by the same team?
Ooh, that's a good one.
So I just look back to 40-0, and I think Dallas just continues the roll and tacks on another 31 to that, and 31 Dick.
By the way, I have to give Mike props. We talked offline about Antonio Pierce's first game as a Raider, and he said, "Is this going to be the first time a coach comes in and wins his first game by a shutout against his old team?" And it nearly happened.
Damn near happened.
Nearly happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive, Mike.
Good call. Great call.
It's easy to predict the Giants score, Dick. If I do that every week, I feel like I'm going to win some things.
I love it though. So the game's going under. Dallas covers in an under, and when it's only 38.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go Dallas minus 16.5 and the under.
And the under. Never seen that in an NFL game. Over under 38. Oh, and by the way, the team's favored by 16. What a joke.
Novak.
So I'm going to go off of some feedback from one of my good friends who I work with, Chris Coons, who you mentioned there, and he tells me that the Cowboys tend to play down to their opponent, and this would be the massive understatement of playing down to an opponent.
Oh my
so I'm going to say 27-13. I think the Giants will cover, and this is not 27-13 close game. This is 27-6. Prevent defense, third stringers at the end of the game. Giants get a late touchdown for Danny DeVito, 27-13.
The backdoor cover.
Backdoor cover.
Oof. Those are the worst.
So Novak, the Jets actually switched places with the Giants from last week, and they actually play the Raiders this week. So what are you looking forward to in that game before you give the score prediction?
I want Tim Boyle to play. I don't care what happens. I want Tim Boyle or Trevor Siemian to play in this game. And that's what's going to end up happening. On my prediction,
do you think that's a possibility?
I do. I think he's got one half. I think he's got the half of this game to stay on the field. You cannot continue to put this loser out there every single week. And anyone can say that it's the offensive line bullshit. You watch him play, he holds the ball. There's so many things going wrong. All that said, I'm going to actually predict the Jets are going to win this game because I think the Raiders, they got their win last week against the Giants. And I'm not just blowing smoke up the Jets' ass, but this defense is very good. And there's a rookie quarterback they're going against. I think they're going to own them from a defensive standpoint. So I'm going to say the Jets are going to win this game 14-6. And while I have the floor, I don't know that you saw that, Scott, but I did get a question from a Jet fan, my friend Tyberski. Why do we keep falling for this team, developing hope, having it dash, and then starting the cycle all over again? And my answer is because we are Jet fans. That's what we do. And this team is going to do this again. They're going to win on Sunday against the Raiders. They're going to get us all hyped up. They're 5-4 going into the Bill game, and we're going to get our asses kicked by the Bills, or maybe the
and
Dolphins,
actually that pertains to Giant fans. We also, why the fuck do we do this year after year, time after time?
Yep.
Of course, we do have the 4 Super Bowls, but that's beside the point.
Oh, that's besides the point. Fuck off.
Kind of the point.
It's the only point, but
now I will say this about the Raiders game. So Antonio Pierce is coming as the interim head coach. Last year, the Raiders had a pretty decent interim head coach, and they decided, this guy's no good. We're going to bring in Josh McDaniels. Yeah, that worked out well for him. So I see Antonio Pierce. He's shaking things up. He's moving things around there. He's got a stiff at quarterback, but I think the Raiders are going to win this game 20-16. And Antonio Pierce will make his case at the end of the year to stay on as a permanent head coach, and will probably get moved to the back seat so they could hire whoever the best name is.
I'll go next here on this game. I'm going to go with the. I'm actually going to side with Novak here. I was going to pick the Raiders, but then I decided, you know what? I can see this. I think I mentioned this last week with Jeff Saturday when he came in as the interim coach with the Colts, and everybody was up in arms with that temporary move. Wasn't it Saturday who came in and had the Colts had the one?
Yep.
Was that last year? Or
Yeah,
was
it was last year.
It was last year.
Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, it was last year. And they had that one inspirational big first win, and then everything just fell apart right after that.
And we had the Grey Goose game against.
Yeah, we had a goose game against our only one that we've had in the last decade. Against that same team. So I feel like the Raiders got their token win. They happen to have the fucking doormat New York Giants. It was teed up perfectly. The script couldn't have been any better. Where you got Antonio Pierce coming in. It's you know what I love. I was actually seeing some tweets and some comments from Raider fans, just looking at the box score and whatnot in the last couple days, talking up. Great. We fired McDumbass. The Raiders, they played better than they have all year. I'm like, you're playing the fucking Giants. It couldn't have been set up any better. So this week will be a little bit different. They're going to face a real defense in the New York Jets. That's for sure. I think the Jets just squeak by. The Raiders will revert back to the bullshit offense that they've been trotting out there all season up until last week, of course. And I think the Jets will squeak by. I will go with a stupid score like 15-10 Jets. I don't know what that's going to be a combination. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be field goals or what or something like
Cardone's
that. 15-10 Jets.
Cardone's like all over my score. 15-10. I have 16-9 Jets for my pick.
There you
go. So we were close.
Do we have a recap of where we are?
I've
done bad the last few weeks.
I did the audit. I'm fully up to date, but let me give my short recap on the Jets Raiders because I think I really don't need to do this because Cardone just pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. Is that the Jets are going to get the Raider team that the Giants should have gotten. They got up for that new coach who went in, said all the right things. They got up, and they're the Giants, and they stink. And the Raiders now, I won't talk too much about it because it's my pet peeve. But the the Raiders are now like, oh, are they back? Without no, they're not back. They're as Cardone said, they were playing the Giants. So yeah, I got the Jets 16-9. Just sort of the Jets doing what they've done all year and just playing awesome defense and trying to scrap together somehow enough points to outscore the opponent. I mean, that's been what they've been doing. They've been 500-ish successful at that. So that is better than the product the Raiders have been putting out, in my opinion. So yeah, I got the Jets 16-9. So the accounting here, I did my accounting. I did my audit of the entire system here. So
I think I've fallen off the last few weeks.
Well, yeah, you had a tough one this week, but coming into this week, Novak was the leader at 10-4. Scott and Mike were tied at 9-5, and Cardone was at 8-6.
Oh.
And then we did the Raiders this week's games, the Raiders Giants and the Chargers Jets. Scott took it on the chin with an 0-2 to fall into last place, and the rest of us went 2-0. So Novak remains in the lead at 12-4. Mike is at 11-5. Cardone is at 10-6, and Scott is at 9-7. So we're all one game. We're all one game apart going into the new week.
Right on.
All right, boys.
The new guy, he's got it.
Jets went tossed with the very iffy strategy of picking both the Giants and the Jets to win in our pick'em. I don't know if that's ever happened before.
No.
And it will not happen again. So, Mike, pet peeves?
Yeah, I got a pet peeve. I almost threw it away with my notes there. Happening. So my pet peeve, as I just talked about, is especially happens here right in the middle of the season. And I know I've mentioned this on previous ones. It's probably actually been a pet peeve of mine before, but I'll bring it up again because it's so timely right now with everything that happened last week. And I just sort of started my pet peeve when I was talking about the score. All week this week, it's been, are the Raiders back? Have they found the formula? There is no consideration given to who they were playing. A team that is completely, that stinks anyway, but is decimated by injuries. The Giants, if you put the over under, guys, at how many touchdowns the New York Giants are going to score in these last 8 weeks, I would put it at 5. And I would tell you to pick over or under that. And I think that's a solid place for that number to be. The Giants are not going to score multiple offensive touchdowns in many of these games going down the stretch, if any. So, and then it's the same thing, like we watched the Jet game together. Everyone knows the Giants should have won that game. Now, before the Giants should have won it, the Jets should have won it. But at the end of the game, the circumstances that we talked about last week that led to the Jets winning were mind-boggling. It's like flipping a coin 10 times and getting 10 heads for the Jets to win that game. So, but now there's some love being given to the Jets, finding a way. Are they back? I think the Jets, as I just said, are who they have been all year. They easily could have won or lost pretty much any game they were in. And if you find a quarterback to play for them, they probably win more than half of them, which they're doing now. So there was a couple other examples this week. It was a real good week for that. But I just hate this time of year when we deem teams dead or back based on one game without considering who their opponent is. If you're on a bit of a losing streak, this happened to the Giants maybe 2-3 years ago. If you're on a 2 or 3 game losing streak, and then you go into a place like Kansas City or San Francisco or at Dallas, and you give them everything they've got, and they beat you to continue your losing streak, are you still technically on a slide? You just played really well. No one takes into account the opponent, and it drives me nuts. And I know I've said it before. I hope I gave a few different new examples of it there, but something to be on the lookout for.
It's great stuff.
So true. One game, and all of a sudden the team has figured it out.
Yep.
With no consideration of who
issues.
solved all their issues.
Yep.
So true. Yep. That's a great one.
Devontae Adams still didn't score a touchdown, but hey, he's figured it out.
Yeah.
Figured it out.
Novak.
So my pet peeve, and this could go horribly wrong because I'm going to engage you three in a quick survey. And I'm really hoping you answer this the way I think you're going to answer it to prove my pet peeve. So I'm really running myself out there to be laughed at. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to ask you some quick questions. I just want a yes or no answer to this question. And I'm going to ask you a couple of things. One, Scott, officiating is not a part of this equation. Assume the officiating is great. And then Cardone and Mike, you are not Giants fans in this equation. You are football fans that appreciate good football.
All right.
Scott, you too. You're not Giant fans for these questions. Got it?
Got it.
So the question is, of these games, would you have interest in watching these games as I go through? Are you ready? Yes or no? All right. And 2 of you saying yes, I'm going to count that as a yes. So it's got to be majority.
Yep.
Panthers, Bears.
No.
Colts, Patriots.
No.
Texans, Bengals.
No.
Saints, Vikings.
No.
Packers, Steelers.
No.
Maybe.
Probably no, but it's that one's closer.
Okay,
yeah.
So we're still 2. I'm going to say 2 no's there. Titans, Bucks.
No.
49ers, Jaguars.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd watch that one.
Browns, Ravens.
No.
I'm going to watch that one.
Okay, well, I have 2 no. I have
You got
2
2
no's.
no's. You got 2 no's. Yeah.
Falcons, Cardinals.
No.
Lions, Chargers.
No.
Yeah.
I got 2 no's.
Yep.
Giants, Cowboys. You're not Giant fans.
No.
Commanders, Seahawks.
No.
No, not at all.
Jets, Raiders.
No.
Broncos, Bills.
No.
One fucking game of this whole schedule would a general fan want to watch the game. The
Yeah.
product of the NFL is my pet peeve. How horrible is that? And we
Beautiful.
talked about it 2 weeks ago. We said the same thing. We looked at the schedule. We were texting each other. What an awful slew of games. I just read through 14 games and won.
That's
Unanimously, all three of you said you would watch. How pathetic is the product of the NFL?
And actually, that one we were sort of lukewarm on.
kind of
49ers
It was
Jaguars is a good game.
49ers Jags. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I might have said yes to the Texan game only because I'm interested in CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Because of what he did. Other than that, I said the same thing. I had two on here that I would have wanted to watch and sit down as a football fan and watch.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, Novak, if you were doing like primetime games for the next several weeks. I didn't look at this. I wasn't paying that close attention to the slate of games for this weekend. So
I didn't want to tell you that because that
No,
would cloud
I'm
your
glad you
judgment.
didn't. Can I make one more point, Mike, before you were?
Yeah.
Look, I interrupted you because I wasn't sure where to slip this in, but I think this is a good, appropriate time right now. Because here we are, so just past the halfway point, right, of this season, and this is when you start to ask who's good. What teams are good, what teams aren't. So I'm looking at I'll start with the NFC first, and Eagles are sitting there with a commanding 8-1 record right now over. I'm just going to list the top teams in the NFC. We know who they are, but when you look at the records, all of a sudden it's like, the Detroit Lions are 6-2. I'm going just by conference seedings right now. Eagles, of course, number 1, 8-1. Yeah, they're my Super Bowl team. That's obviously not a stretch, obviously. But then as soon as you start naming the teams, Detroit Lions, well, I don't trust them yet. They haven't. They got to still. I know they're 6-2 and they're good, but I want to see proof come the playoffs. Then you got the Niners. We know they're good, but all of a sudden they've hit a skid of 3 straight losses. There's doubters there. Then you got the Seahawks, that are sitting there 5-3, and it's like, well, I've seen them get destroyed a couple weeks, like by the Ravens and whatnot. Then you got the ultimate fucking frauds in the Dallas Cowboys. Those are the top 5 teams in the NFC, and then after that, guys, I'm taking nobody. Because then you get into the Saints, Vikings, Commanders, Falcons. Get the fuck out of here with those teams. Out of those top 5, who do you really trust? In my opinion, other than Eagles and Niners, I don't even trust Dallas. There's nobody. So this is what's being put.
Did you actually mention the Commanders?
Well, because they're 4-5. I mean, they're in the hunt, as we love, right? We love the in the hunt on the pod here. Falcons, you could throw them in there too. They're 4-5. But guys, I look at it and I'm like, and then it's just the bottom just drops out. As soon as you get past the top 5, that leaves 11 teams of just garbage.
Yeah,
that's just the NFC. The AFC is a little different because you got the Chiefs, Ravens, Dolphins, Jets. So there's a lot, definitely more, top heavy with the AFC, and then. But even like I'm starting to lose it with the Buffalo Bills. I'm done with that team. I don't know what to do with that team, because I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, but I don't know. So I guess what I'm just trying to say is, to your point, Novak, just the product, the quality of really good teams. It just doesn't seem like it's there. It just doesn't seem like there's compelling, riveting football like matchups, guys. There's not. And I don't play fantasy anymore, so I have less of a reason to watch the fucking Texans take on someone. I have what do I care what happens in that game? Nothing.
Yep.
And the more we go down this road, I mean, we've talked about this offline. We're not so much 3 angry Giant fans and a Jet fan. We're 3 angry NFL fans.
Yep.
And that's sort of what this podcast has morphed into. We're angry about the state of the NFL. We're angry about the officiating. We're angry about the quality of play. We're angry about a ton of shit. It's not just to our teams, although our teams take center stage here. It's Cardone, to your point. Why are we even talking about the Falcons being in the hunt? The fucking Falcons.
Yeah.
They're not in the hunt. I mean, they may be in the hunt or whatever, sure, but we know they're garbage, right? Really, when you think about a legitimate playoff team, garbage. Yeah. AFC is much better, and that there's no surprise there. The AFC, we knew preseason that there was a lot of heavyweights in the AFC. So, I'm just being a Giant fan. I'm an NFC guy, so I pay more attention. So Novak, when you're listing AFC matchups, I don't care. even Browns chart. Like I'm not. I like because it's the NFL and it's football. I still will tune in, just to get a feel. But I'm not really it's tough to watch AFC games for me, And then I look at the NFC, and the NFC just sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
And this is what's even more frustrating when you have a giant team dicking around at 2-7, can't even be competitive in a conference that sucks.
Yeah, where if they could get their act a little bit together, they're like guaranteed to be one of the top 5 teams. Like if you just play some good football, you'd be automatically in top 5. And then as we talked about last week, to both of your points, and then they water it down more by adding more teams to the playoffs. So we get fucking playoff games like Seattle at Tampa Bay and at Atlanta at Minnesota. Like who gives a fuck about those games? I mean, that you're going to have those super wild card weekend games that are going to feature the Commanders and the Seahawks and the Falcons and the fight. Oh, woo! I mean, it's garbage, complete garbage. And on Novak's list, the only reason I kind of hemmed and hawed on the Steeler game is because I have no fucking idea how they're good.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And I've been saying, I got to watch this team play. Every stat says they should be 2-7.
They can't be good, guys.
Mike Tomlin is a magician.
He is.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't be good. They average like 16 something points a game. So I haven't watched the Steelers at all. They have a point differential of -30.
Yeah.
And they're 2 games over 500. Imagine the Giants doing something like that.
The AFC North is making the playoffs, just like last year with the NFC East.
Yeah. And what AFC conference does the NFC East play next year? So we play the AFC North. So we have that whole division next year. That shit won't end. At least we get the NFC South next year. Look at me talking about next year like an asshole. I make fun of those guys. I'm talking draft picks and who we got on the schedule next year. I'm a loser.
Oh, speaking of loser, you got the next pet peeve too.
Pet peeve. It's funny. So as usual, the 4 of us are on the same page because we already went through the whole the end of the game officiating and how it's we're and Mike, you were just mentioning, we've talked about this many times where this thing with the speeding up the clock when it used the old-fashioned days where you guys went out of bounds and the clock just stopped, and I don't understand who decided that football games need to go faster. But my pet peeve is centered around one particular play, and it was in the Dallas. We're obviously talking about the Dallas, Philly game quite a bit here because it was a good. Yeah, we're interested in those teams because NFC East, we hate them both, but it's fun to watch them kind of beat up each other. So late in the game, if you guys recall, and Scott, you've already mentioned Dallas being screwed on a number, some calls and whatnot. But so Dallas was down by 5. They get the ball back with I don't know how many seconds or under. They had to burn all their timeouts on defense. So now they take ownership of the ball at their own 14, and they start matriculating down the field, trying to get out of bounds and trying to save clock because they have no timeouts. So this particular play, to the point I want to make, the pet peeve, all throughout the game, these fucking referees, when a guy gets thrown out of bounds, you see this guy come in with the winding arm like he's like he's a third base coach bringing home like you're rounding third with the game-winning run in extra innings in Game 7 of a playoff series. The guy, he can't come in with the winding arm fast enough, right? Oh no, but not on the last drive of the game. That's how you know these assholes how arbitrary it is. When there was a play on, I got the play-by-play here in front of me. So Dallas, it's 40 seconds left, no timeouts. Prescott throws a pass short right to Jake Ferguson, the tight end. The defender comes up. I think it was Slay. Slay comes up, hits him as he's and pushes him out of bounds. He pushes him backwards, meaning that his forward progress had stopped. He went out of bounds laterally at best, even backwards a little bit. So sure enough, here comes the asshole ref coming in. All of a sudden now, he comes in with the hands overhead, stopping the clock. I'm like, and at that point, it's not like I'm rooting for Dallas. I just want consistency with these officials, and the four of us know we can predict all of this shit. So as I saw that play, I go, watch, this asshole's going to call him inbounds. Watch this. And it was right in front of the Eagle bench, too, where all the Eagle guys are going like this to run the clock. Nope. This asshole comes in, stops the clock, and I'm like, you asshole, you know exactly what you're doing. Because if that's the first 3 minutes into the fucking game and that play happens, you know goddamn well you're winding your arm. But nope, no timeouts. I know Dallas has I'm going to stop this clock right, you bet. And you can't review that stuff. That's not reviewable. So sure enough, guys, that one drives me insane because and that just happened to be in that game. You see that like every week, watch any of those games on the last drive when a team doesn't have any timeouts, that asshole comes in and he stops the clock whenever it's close. All 59 other minutes of the game, with the exception of maybe the last drive of the first half, they're stopping that clock. They know what they're doing. It's again, that's officiating by situation or whatever I call it, something like that, where they know the situation. It's different rules, and and we accept it in certain sports, maybe. So I don't want to sound hypocritical because we've talked about the swallowing of the whistle in hockey, but everyone knows everyone can live with that. And it's known. It's been in play for decades. But that rule in football where the guy comes in and stops the clock, it's bullshit.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you, Cardone, I'm still upset with the way the NFL handles. Like the way they spot the ball late in games or not just late in games, just in general. And it's funny because you can challenge a spot at any time if you're the opposing coach, but it's really hard to do because when they go and look at it, then they have to decide, well, if it doesn't benefit you, you still lose a timeout, even though you might be right. If it's not a first down and you challenge a spot, you might be right in that the spot's better than what they said, but you still lose a timeout. And then you get into situations like the Giants had with Daniel Jones running the tush push play, where he clearly has a first down. They call him short. They give the ball to the Raiders. Now that play is technically supposed to be reviewed automatically because it's a change of possession. That play was never reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw a replay of Daniel Jones getting that play by a yard.
Yeah.
We also saw several spots in that game where Daniel Jones ran out of bounds one time, 2 yards past the sticks, was marked short of the first down by a half a yard, which actually benefited us because it made it like second in inches rather than a first down and 10. But the spotting of the ball in the NFL is just at epically poor proportions.
Can I make one more comment before? Yeah, real quick, Mike. So a couple possessions earlier, the same side judge who made that call. I don't know if you guys, if you weren't watching. So earlier in the quarter, this is the fourth quarter, Dallas has a 4th and 1 at Philly's 15-yard line. So they do a quarterback sneak with Prescott, and it doesn't look like he gets it. He gets stood up at the line of scrimmage. So now you got the line judge, the side judge. You know how they come running in from the sidelines to spot the ball. But what happens is a fucking scuffle breaks out. But so this asshole line judge, instead of keeping his spot, because it's 4th and 1, and we don't know if this guy even got the first down. It was a pile of bodies. I don't think he got it. Instead of him staying on that spot like he should, that should be his responsibility. What does he do? No, he just starts walking over and starts breaking up the scuffle when you got like 3 or 4 other officials. So now what the fuck happens is they call an unnecessary roughness only on Philly, but it's after the play. So it's a dead ball foul. So Sirianni, what does he do? He makes the right call. He challenges the spot. So I was thinking, like, wait a minute, you can't do that because it's already. Oh, wait a minute, it was after the play. So that means that if he was challenging the spot, but this fucker, because he just left the spot and to break up a scuffle that he had no business or was necessary to do that. So what happens? They reviewed it. They never showed it to the home audience because I was barking at the TV. I'm like, well, how the fuck are you going to review this now? Like the guy where do you spot the ball? He was more concerned about breaking up a non-scuffle that was going on where the other officials already had it under control. So, of course, that was the one where within 2 seconds, after review, the play stands as called Dallas first down. They gave him so the penalty was enforced. on the and of course Dallas just kept the ball. Like, well, yeah, because this jackoff he just walked away from the spot. Have you guys seen that one before where like the guy comes in? No, it happens. There'll be a scuffle. And I've seen it like sometimes, and that was a critical situation because 4th and 1, a close game. You see the guy come in and he just walks away. Like, where's it going?
That's ingenious. If I'm coaching, I'm sticking that one in my back pocket. Hey, if this looks even close, start a fight.
Yeah. I will say this though.
Yeah.
How much of a dick is Sirianni? His histrionics on the sidelines and him going up and down, ranting at the refs. They got called for like one penalty and the guy goes ballistic on that penalty.
Yeah. The spotting thing, well, the one thing I noticed that I love, you guys know Josh Allen and Mahomes, and there's a couple other guys. It hurts, I think, like when they're running and they're about to step out of bounds, they'll stick the ball forward, which is a really heads up thing to do. And and they always, those big name quarterbacks always get that. Like the officials don't know exactly where that spot is, but by God, they know it's a first down. And that's all that mattered.
I feel like the Dick started that. I always remember the Dick doing that. Like it seemed like he was the most prevalent or most egregious
but do you ever
abuser
notice
of that.
Like if,
or Russell Wilson.
If Danny DeVito does that next week, the officials look at him like, no, like who do you think you are?
You're not kidding.
Stop
it. We don't even have to go to DeVito. There was a play. And I was tweeting this with you, or I'm not tweeting it. I was texting it with you guys. Jones stuck the ball out like this on one play when he went out. He went out clearly like at 13 yards, and they marked him back, so it was a 2nd and inches.
Yeah, Jones isn't on the list that gets that call. He's not on the list.
I got to add one thing, and I'll make it very fast because this is so funny. And Cardone, great pet peeve. The new one that they say now on the ball spotting thing is New York must have a different view than we do. What?
Yes.
Do they have a camera on the center's crotch? There's 14 people in a scrum. How do you have a different view than we do? Like, really, how do they know what's going on down there in that scrum of 14 people? I just...
Yeah, the New York thing always bothers me because I wonder what camera angles they actually have because they don't seem to have as many as we do.
Yeah. I know you guys have all experienced this because I know your level of fandom. I know how you watch for the rules, but I'm sure this happened to you 100 times. And I don't know why we don't have booth officials that are better than us at this. How many times has a play happened and they're going to commercial and then I stand up and I say, his fucking foot's out of bounds. He's out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
And they just go to commercial. And they come back and say, we looked at this during the commercial, and number 11's actually out of bounds on that play. And I'm like, no fucking shit. I saw it in live action.
Maybe you could work from New York, Mike.
Put me in. I can do it from home. We're gonna have to go to South Carolina for this one.
So I'm actually gonna break I'm going to break my pet peeve because one of my pet peeves is taking a show or anything that's sort of jovial and making it serious because we really don't need to. But what I really cannot stand, and I've talked about this before, when I was a little kid, I always wondered, and I would talk to my mom and say, Mom, what the hell was up with the Holocaust? Why did people hate the Jews so much? And no one would give me an answer. And we are in a situation right now where I see a dichotomy in the United States with a bunch of people that are pro-Palestine that are basically anti-Semites, and they're going against Judaism. And I've never understood why Jews are persecuted. And guys, I hate to bring this down, but it's one of those things where like I've never been approached by a Jewish person saying, "Hey, come and join our team." I've been down in the South, and about once a week I get asked, do you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ? So it's not like it's a Judaism thing, a Christianity thing. People are always asking me, "Do you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ? Do you have a church that you go to?" I've never had a Jewish person ask me that. The Jewish people basically keep to themselves. They have their own spot of land that's surrounded by a bunch of countries that want them wiped off of it. And they don't ever have like an outburst. And this is what bothers me is that Judaism tends to be a religion of peace. If there's a pro-Israel rally, it's about peace. If there's a pro-Palestine rally, it's about exterminating the Jews. And this is a thing. Extermination is a term used for rodents or insects, not a fucking human race, not people. And again, I hate to be serious here, but we are in a situation now where we have people in the United States at liberal colleges, or at colleges, I should say, of repute, that are pro-Palestinian, which equates to being anti-Semitic. And I don't know how I really don't know how to I don't know how to I don't know how to balance that. I mean, for me, it's one of those things where I have never understood the hatred of Jews. I've never understood why Judaism is persecuted, and I've never known a Jewish person that I've disliked because of the religion or anything like that. And it's funny because, you know, we go to Mulligan's, we go to places. There was a guy, what was it, last year that was like on Cardone about having a large, what did he call you? He called you a Jewish, he said, you got a large nose like a Jewish
Something
guy.
like that. Yeah, I don't know.
And I'm thinking to myself, I've never thought that. I've never looked at that stance. And for me, it's just so foreign that there are people in this world, and even in our country in 2023, that are okay with saying, I want a race erased from the earth, or I want a race exterminated. And I do think the media is implicit in this a little bit. I mean, you know, there's a bunch of people that are hostages held by Hamas, and there are people running around on college campuses and in the streets tearing down posters of these people that are kidnapped. Why would you do that? Why would you do that in any standpoint? And then the other thing is just the way things are reported. Everyone believes what Hamas says in terms of people being dead, the numbers that they are saying are killed. And I say to myself, you're believing the mouthpiece of a terrorist organization and transmitting that to the rest of the world. And I just take a step back, and it sort of equates to sports in one way. Has the world lost their mind in the way they look at things? And that's where I tie it back to sports, because we often say, what the fuck are we looking at as sports fans? Guys, I'm very, very disappointed in the human race and the way we've handled what's going on here, and that we have people and members of Congress that are actually okay with being pro-Palestinian, which ends up being anti-Jewish. And I will say this, when you have a Jewish rally is always about, hey, leave us alone. We want to be free. Just leave us alone. Give us peace. When you have an anti-Jewish rally or a pro-Palestinian rally, there are signs in those rallies saying exterminate the Jews. And those are things I cannot compute as a human being in 2023. And I'm sorry for bringing this down. It wasn't meant to be my pet peeve, but the way I've seen this in the news and the way I've seen people talk about this, it bothers me that there are intelligent people in the United States taking the side of Palestine, and not just taking the side of Palestine, but saying, hey, we need to wipe away the Jews.
That's deep stuff for our football.
Sorry.
There,
no, I was about to say, like, that's very deep. I mean, I did a non-sports related pet peeve, and it was about a Burger King commercial. So, Scott, you're very much more well informed than I. So I'll just say that.
Yeah,
Scott. Of course, excellent points. All of them. You mentioned at the end there that, you know, you said we have people on college campuses doing this, and I don't know if you heard me, but I kind of said in the background, we have people in our own Congress doing it. You know, so it's like, true. I don't know which is more disturbing than the other. And the funny thing about the college campus people to me is, like, there was one rally they had on TV, or they were covering it in the news, and someone held up a sign that said "Queers for Palestine," and I said, "That's like having a sign that says antelopes for lions." Like there's no. If they took those views to Palestine, they would be murdered in the street without repercussions. It would be the end of them. Yeah.
I like how you slipped in antelopes again,
I
Mike.
just love antelopes.
Yeah.
Antelopesville.
It's always been a mystery to me as well, Scott. You would think with what happened in World War II and what we found out after and during World War II, that kind of sentiment would be gone and buried. I mean, there's no one can even mention the guy's name who was responsible for that now. Yet here we are, and there's basically two sides of the coin, and the one side of the coin is constantly calling the other side fascists and comparing them to Hitler. But ironically, that's the same side that seems to be pretty okay with eliminating the Jews. So I don't get it. I'm not going to pretend I do. I'm not going to walk off the plank with you, although I'll give you a little support out there.
Well, the answer is yes to has the world collectively lost their minds? Yes. Yeah. In all arenas. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, sorry to bring the pod down.
No.
It's one of those things that a current events kind of thing that I have never understood why people have disliked people who follow Judaism. I've never had a problem with anyone who does. And the funny thing is, I've never been approached by anyone saying, "Hey, you want to be a Jew?" No, that's never happened. So I don't get the dislike. I don't get the utter hate. I never understood it when it happened in the Holocaust, and I certainly don't understand it in 2023 when Israel is surrounded by several countries who just want to wipe them off the map.
Unexplainable.
Yep. So, sorry I brought that down. We had questions, but I think all the questions were answered. We had questions about, is Danny? I'll use Novak's term. Is Danny DeVito the answer for the Giants? I think the Giants are rolling with Tommy DeVito to see what they have, and that's about the best option other than Matt Barkley. But guys, I mean, there was a question from Brian Peacock about Dable and is his job secure? As far as I'm concerned, Dable was coach of the year last year. Dable gets a free pass this year. We have had a lot of injuries. We've had a ton of turmoil. Let the man have his say on a QB, on a roster. Let's reset this next year and go from there.
Yeah, I think that like I've said the whole time here, I have a lot of faith still in the new regime here, and we all knew they came in and they took over a bad situation in terms of salary cap and some other things like that they were handed. So they've done a pretty good job managing that. This thing got away from Dable, and I don't absolve him from responsibility for it, but he gets more years than this. I don't think there's any question about that. I still don't think there's 2 years in, Joe Judge had proven to be a non-effective coach. I don't think Dable is that level, and I think if the Giants give Joe Judge 2 years, then Dable gets at least 3. Would be my opinion. And as far as DeVito, my opinion on DeVito is he's the answer right now, because the question is, how many games can we lose to try to get the number 1 pick? So if that's the question, he's the answer.
Although I will say, if we're sitting here a year from now and they're 2-7, you can't tell me that he's got a third year guaranteed.
No, definitely
and
not.
After having had one coach of the year, would you ever have thought in November, whatever it is, of 2023, we'd be saying a year from now he could be gone if he has the same results? Yeah. I never would have thought that, but I mean, I'm not a Giant fan, but from an outsider's perspective, if you're 2-7, November 8th, whatever it is, next year at this time,
oh yeah,
he's on the hot seat. Sorry.
Oh yeah, there's
but Novak, I think that applies to Salah too.
Salah could be gone this year.
Yeah.
Salah could be gone. I mean, if they go on the epic loss streak like they did last year, and they end up this season 5-12, he's gone. He's gone. No matter how much he's on the camera.
Even with the Rodgers injury.
The only reason
I think he gets a free pass because of that.
I would agree with you there. The only reason he might come back is because, like I said earlier, Rodgers controls the Jets. He's making the calls. And if he says to Woody Johnson, I want Robert Salah back as head coach, guess who's coming back as head coach? Robert Salah.
It's amazing to me that Aaron Rodgers, I was going to ask you about this, Novak. You know, when Aaron Rodgers left the Packers, he was not playing very well. And a lot of people attributed that to his supporting cast and all that. So he brings most of that supporting cast with him to the Jets. And now because he's not played, I almost think his legend is blown up way bigger than his talent level can handle when he actually does come back. Because so many people now have been like, oh, well, we would be 6 and, whatever if Rodgers were playing. And that might be true, but maybe not. And I think this sort of not playing here is sort of had added to his aura, which is all he needed, right?
Oh, this whole thing of him on the sidelines throwing 50-yard passes with a torn Achilles is absolutely adding to the Rodgers legend. And like we said a few weeks ago, he is going to emerge from a manger on Christmas Eve, and he's going to be under center.
Against the Commanders. I'm looking at the schedule here. So yeah, Christmas Eve against the Commanders. That's when we'll see the he'll be risen.
Yep, even if they're out of playoff contention.
No, if he's not going to play if they're out of playoff contention. No, but if they have a chance, he'll be in there. I do feel that.
Oh my God, I will have to turn the volume off on the TV.
Can you imagine?
No, in typical Jet luck, he'll tear the other Achilles on the second play.
But he'll be ready if the Jets make the Super Bowl.
Of course. Yeah.
You guys got anything else tonight?
No, just the fact that I'm just realizing that the Jet Raider game is actually the Sunday night game. I don't know why I was looking at it.
Another primetime game.
Just realize it's like, good God, it's that's so the country's got to be subjected to that. Novak.
That's another Rodgers factor.
Yeah. Yep.
We're subjected to that crap yet again. Awful.
Giants still have one more to go, believe it or not. They play Green Bay on a Monday night at home later in the year. But as far as prime time, we got 4 of the 5 out of the way. Thank God.
This organization has become so pathetic right now that someone said something earlier about this, and I thought about it as the podcast went on, and it's absolutely right. A recent part of my holiday tradition is like doing shit around the house on those days, around Thanksgiving and around Christmas, and having the Giants getting mauled in the background as background music to my day.
Mauled.
Just mauled with Mike Glennon running around out there. And I don't even care what's going on in the game.
Like Novak said when he was going through the schedule, we got Denver and Buffalo on Monday night.
Yep.
So it doesn't get better.
No, and tomorrow night's the Bears and someone terrible tomorrow night. Panthers.
Bears and Panthers.
That's oh my God.
I will tip my cap
unwatchable
to AWS and their perfect schedule this year.
And the Bears, listen, I love tuning in for the Fields factor, and he's been out. So like they're I'm kind of missing the Justin Fields watch.
Well, and then in a couple weeks we have the Black Friday game with the Jets.
Oh, that's right. The non-holiday game is I love that one. It's not a holiday. It's not.
But before we close out, I did have one thing I wanted to mention. So have you guys have seen Tyler Badgett, right? Playing the guy in there for right. So very, very similar numbers to Fields. In some ways better, but he doesn't have the rushing, so it's a trade-off. The passing yards are a little better, right? But every talking head on TV is so quick to say, well, he's not very good. He's the Bears might be winning if I'm like, what? How is he not very good? I don't understand. I never will. They are so quick to tear Tyler Badgett down because they want Fields back in there. They don't want anyone suggesting that Tyler Baggett, or whatever his name is, should be the quarterback over Justin Fields. The thought of someone suggesting that just drives them mad.
And I still think he's going to beat the Panthers this Thursday. It's just going to be interesting.
The Baguette versus the midget.
So we are the 3 Angry Giant fans and a Jet fan. Hit us up at angry_3. Send in questions. We had a few this week that were related to the content, so we already covered them. But guys, we appreciate the downloads. By the way, we did hit the 7,500 download threshold this week.
Woohoo!
So we appreciate all the support we've been given. Been going gangbusters on YouTube. So continue to watch us, like us, subscribe. We really appreciate everything that you guys give us, even in a down year. We know this is not fun for people to watch the Giants or the Jets. We're not having fun watching them.
But you can tune in here because Scott will spice it up with some Israel-Palestine conversation.
I was really conflicted about that. And I think I actually had a pet peeve a few years ago about how, shows that are mainly based on humor bring the shit down with like real world stuff. So
yeah, we had a very special episode today. Hey, everyone has one. It's all right.
I apologize, people.
No, you don't have to apologize. I think you handled it very well, and I think it was very heartfelt, and it's important issues. I'm glad you did it.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good week, guys.